This is one of the weirder but more common scams, and we think it's sort of the inverse of normally, where a customer seems to have scammed Amazon, and then we got the old double scam, where what we bought was a new in-box, why is it always Asus? Asus 1000 watt low-key power supply. It was neither new in box, nor was it an Asus power supply. This is an open box item, and inside the open box is an Asus bag, a misfitted set of packing materials, and a Corsair SF850, which is $50 cheaper than what we ordered, and also used, and also open box. I mean, obviously it was used. So Amazon, maybe accidentally, paid the scam forward to us, but one of the more interesting things with this one is that this box under the shipping label has another label on it. And that label says, remove this label, instructions, error code, ship weight out of tolerance. They knew it was a problem. So this computer power supply just came in from Amazon. We bought an Asus Loki 1000 watt power supply, sold and shipped by Amazon. It was not a third-party seller, and it was listed with the condition new in box. It was $250. The outer box is for the correct item, but opening it again reveals that Corsair SF850, which isn't even a bad power supply. It's currently sold for $200. If this were a buy and return scam, that's only a $50 profit for the scammer, which would actually be the customer in this scenario, the previous one, not Amazon, and a bit of a switcheroo from what we're used to. Now, we'd assume this is for someone who maybe just wanted to upgrade to more wattage. It is a little bit higher. Maybe they wanted to go native 12-volt high power so they can more efficiently incinerate their inbound 50 series card. We don't know. The motive doesn't really matter. Generally speaking, this sort of buy and return swap scam of a retailer is what's known in technical language as a dick move. But at least the scammer was kind enough to include the proper Corsair power supply cables with it. So that was very thoughtful of them. Thank you, scammer.
Thanks, Steve.
Amazon item swaps are more common than they should be, and you should be aware of them. They aren't always the fault of Amazon, but normally Amazon has some involvement in it. Again, like this being an open box item that somehow got mixed in with new in-box items. That shouldn't happen. It should be impossible for that to happen in Amazon's process in their warehouse. So we've had this happen 3 times over the years that I can remember. One was when we bought an i7 CPU and an i5 CPU arrived in the box. But it was an i7 box. So it looks completely right. And for whoever packed it, robot or human, it also looks right. But fortunately, we noticed it. It's not always that noticeable though. Sometimes they can actually wipe the text off the lid of the CPU and make it look like a different product altogether. You can swap stickers on products. It wouldn't be that hard to change the sticker on a lower wattage power supply and make it look higher if you were a more adept scammer trying to rip off a retailer. But one of the other places we got ripped off in the past was when we ordered an RX 580 and we ended up with an RX 580 2048, which was a very specific and not too well-known SKU that was worse. It was cut down. Now we receive a total swap of the power supply in the correct Asus box. Unfortunately, Amazon's return policy generally is just send anything back and we'll throw it on a $700 pallet of shit and then sell it, or we'll throw it out. Who cares? Maybe we'll accidentally send it to a different customer instead of the thing they ordered, and it'll just sort of pay it forward down the line. Unfortunately, that probably feeds into the problem a little bit. But we haven't yet had Amazon reject a claim for this happening. In the other 2 instances, this one wasn't rejected either. We'll see if when it gets there, if anything different happens, but historically it has not yet for us gone poorly for them. So it doesn't rise to the same level of rake stepping as Newegg did, where when we returned the motherboard that was damaged from Newegg, open box that it had tried to RMA itself, Newegg walked through the hardware store and stepped on every single rake that was left on the floor, literally all of the rakes, and they stepped on each one of them and got smacked in the face every time they did. That hasn't happened here in this scenario or in the past ones we've had, but there's absolutely room for it to happen, and this is still a massive problem because there's just no reason that an open box item should end up with new in-box products. Someone's going to get screwed, and the problem really is that they might not even realize it, like in the CPU situation that I was just talking about. But this is the first time we noticed something truly interesting here, which is that the shipping label was slapped on top of another label. And if we take a light to it, you can read all of the important words. In full, it says remove this label. Instructions, process with ship app. FC defect detection service. Error code, ship weight out of tolerance. Package failed, auto check weight. Package weight is out of tolerance. But for some reason, the check was ignored. Now, we'd estimate that the reason lies somewhere between I'm not paid enough to deal with this shit, and I hate this place, Amazon makes me pee into a bottle. And between those two options, you probably end up with fuck this label, I don't care anymore. How it got mixed in is a mystery. It doesn't really matter. It's probably a customer did a return swap scam, moved on with their lives, and it's obviously not the right thing to do. They probably don't feel a lot of remorse for a company like Amazon, but what ends up happening, evidently, is that this can then get passed on to someone else, and that just sort of sucks for the next person down the line. But this isn't about that. This is more about just how such a thing can happen to begin with. And Amazon has its box clearly marked. The system checked it, and the only reason Amazon doesn't get completely raked over the coals here is because, unlike Newegg, every time this has happened, they've just accepted our return. We went crawling around online to try and find instances of this happening and people being rejected, and we weren't able to find too many of them. Now, if this has happened to you, definitely let us know in the comments with some of the details. On the same side of that, if you've gotten the wrong item and they just processed it no problem and refunded your money, also let us know so we have a balance in the comments to capture a bit of everyone. But our biggest concern here, and the thing you need to think about, is if your account doesn't have standing or an established buying history, we're not really sure how Amazon would treat that. There's maybe more room for them to reject you. The best thing you could do if this happens is by demonstrating the correct weight versus the actual weight. That is the easiest thing to point to because apparently they have systems for it and they're ignoring them. Now, if it's the same weight swap, that's a pretty sophisticated scam at that point. It'd be much harder to deal with. We do have some actionable advice here and things for you to think about. First, you just need to be aware that this can happen. And so our biggest concern is that an open box item can end up in the warehouse shipped as new. And this kind of adds an extra layer of when you get the thing, you should inspect it and just make sure it doesn't look to be open box by accident. If it's a known open box item, it should have a separate sticker on it. That'll make it a little easier to identify like we have on this one here. Imagine, for example, if the same thing happened, but instead of a Corsair power supply, we got the Asus power supply, it just happened to be used. There wouldn't really be a reason to suspect it was used if, for example, instead of a ripped open plastic bag, all the cables were just in this Asus bag. We would just assume that's the way they ship it and assume it's new. There's no reason to suspect otherwise. So definitely inspect stuff, at least lightly, look for the tear stickers and all that stuff. At GN alone, we've encountered a lot of defective items over the years as well. And so another piece of actionable advice I have for this type of situation is open it right away, even if you're not planning to use it for a while. So we run a business here. That means sometimes we're buying stuff a month in advance of when we even need to open it because we've just got that much stuff kind of going on and juggling it all. And there was one instance I can remember where we bought a very expensive product to review. And unfortunately, because we didn't need it for a little over a month, we didn't open it. And so by the time we opened it, we saw it had been damaged beyond use. We had no way to claim it with the retailer. We were outside the window, and I honestly don't blame them. I don't hold that against them. We didn't inspect it in time. And there's really no way to claim it with the manufacturer because it wasn't the type of failure that would be covered under RMA. So opening stuff early, now, most people aren't going to leave stuff sitting in a box that long, but maybe you're buying things before you go somewhere or you're trying to stack up components, save money over time, and you know, you're just buying things one by one. That would be a reason to open it. Make sure you got what you think you got, or if it's a gift or something. Now for CPUs, this is the biggest concern because CPUs are where we've seen on Intel, you used to be able to just take rubbing alcohol. If you did it enough, you could get rid of all the labels and then re-laser it. Of course, you could do a light sanding pass or something and blow it all away and then re-etch the lid to make it any processor you want. Why stop at a 9800 X3D when you can make it a CPU 6 generations in the future? So that's something where the best thing to do is check the software. If it's an electronic component like a PC part, socket it, check the software, make sure it detects right. This happens a lot with GPUs from AliExpress especially, and we've seen this and tested it in the past and done videos where if you launch the card, depending on what generation it is, it used to be pretty easy to trick to just write whatever name you wanted to the BIOS that was on the card, the VBIOS, video BIOS, and rebrand it to anything you wanted. So if you wanted to turn a lower end card into a higher end one by just giving it a different name in BIOS that would detect in software, you could do that. And that was an awful scam that would work on a lot of people who might not be otherwise well informed. And the best way to prevent that one, other than just shopping from more reputable places than the random third parties that sell that stuff, would be to check performance and make sure the performance lines up. And on that front, CPUs in particular, GPUs are easy to forge lids or VBIOSes on the older models for GPUs. We've seen all that. If you've experienced any return rejections of the situation we're describing with this, then post comments below, let us know, and likewise let us know the opposite. We have multiple investigations coming up on this channel. So this is the first one. This is an easy video. It's just happened like 2 days ago, and I was like, you know what? We'll start with this one. So things we have coming up here. We've got RMA Rescue, which is a series where we're setting up, actually I've been on Reddit buying a ton of burned parts lately. So if you've been on there and see me buying GPUs, motherboards, CPUs, and everything else that are destroyed, that is because we're starting to work on, one, investigating the failures of those parts. Most of the hardware-specific failures will go on GamersNexus, and then two, digging into the warranty situation. And this channel is going to be where we build up a lot of that, but we'll spread some of them depending on what the situation is. And that's all coming up. We're working on it now. And also, I have a hardware news equivalent that focuses on wider consumer rights issues, ownership of hardware, and some of the industry events that are going on that will relate to this channel. So we've got all that and more shot or in the filming process. Stay tuned for it. Check back. Thanks for joining us as we get this started. I'm excited for it. We started with something pretty simple and relatable here. And if you're a fan of the GN content, then you might already know why we were interested in a low-key 1,000 watt power supply. I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more on this channel. Check back. And hey, it's the old wooden wall from the house. Any OGs in the audience, you'll remember that. And actually, this table is from the house as well. It's the first. They have been out of commission for almost 7 years. Yikes. Well, they're back in commission now. So check out the next videos. We'll be back soon.